back. My name is India and I happen to read lots, and this is a really fun video. This is a really fun video. Tends to be quite a short video. This is a very quick fire, rapid wrap up of what 2025 was like for me. This is my 2025 reading wrap up. We are going to be discussing statistics. We're going to be discussing challenges. We're going to be reflecting on the things in my life in 2025. But this isn't going to be a big, crazy video where you're going to feel a little bit overwhelmed. This is going to be a fun, chilled out, easy video that you can tune in and tune out quite quickly. And yeah, 2025 in general, I think was a very solid year of reading. I don't think it was my best year of reading. I don't think it was ever my worst year of reading. I think the books that I read were good. So yeah, let's just jump in and rapid fire through these stats, prompts, I don't know, but let's do it. So first up, the question on everybody's lips, how many books did I read in 2025? Now, if you don't follow me on social media, then you definitely won't know. But if you have followed me on social media, you are very aware of how many I've read. I read 108 books this year in 2020. Well, I say this year, I'm filming this in 2026, but I read 108 books in 2025. Comparing that to last year I read 163 books. That is a severe drop in number of books read. And there are many different factors for this. The main one being this YouTube channel. Coming up with ideas, recording, editing, uploading takes a lot of time away from reading. So because of that, that is probably the main reason why we've seen a dip in numbers read, but I'm still very happy. I think if I had not completed my goal, which was 75, I then would have been very disappointed, but to complete that and also to do a kind of secondary threshold of 100, I'm very happy with that. For pages read, I don't know whether this is an interesting stat, to be honest, but I read 31,585 pages, which is I think about 10,000 less than last year. I do include, and I just want to add, if I DNF a book, I always include the amount of pages of that book that I did read. So for example, I read 28 pages of The Next Best Fling by Gabriela Gomez. So those 28 pages do count into my overall total. Goodreads said you could walk around the pyramids of Giza with the amount of pages I've read. Okay, I don't know whether that's an interesting stat, but there we go. For my average star rating, it was 4 stars, which is the exact same average star rating that I got last year. What can I say? I'm a girl who knows her taste. I know what I like. I don't force myself to read books that I don't enjoy. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to have a very high average star rating just because that's the way the cookie crumbles. You know, there's not much really to say other than I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And that reflects in the average rating. In regards to the shortest and longest book that I read this year, shortest book I read was The Knight and the Butcher Bird by Alex E. Harrow, which was a really cool post-apocalyptic kind of fantasy story that I read really early in the year that I can't really remember too much about, but that was 36 pages. The longest book I read this year was a book that I literally finished a couple of weeks ago, and that was The Will of the Many by James Islington, which I read with my sci-fi fantasy book group. That was 630 pages. So I audiobooked both of them, funnily enough. I audiobooked The Knight and the Butcher Bird while making dinner one time. There you go. And I audiobooked The Will of the Many because I found the first quarter, the slow pacedness of it was kind of boring me. And then I audiobooked it and it completely changed my life. And it's like, it made it to my 3rd place book in my top 12 books of the year. That video is out. You should go watch it. Spoiler, it was in my top 3. And yeah, really good. I did want to read, and we'll talk about it a bit later, but I did want to read more like epic, chunkier fantasy books. So yeah, smashed it. So next up, we have a quickfire stat round where I'm going to literally throw a bunch of pie charts at you and tell you some things that I think are cool from my year of reading, and I hope you enjoy it. First up, what was my most read genre? My most read genre, I don't even need to look at this. It's going to be fantasy. Yeah, my fantasy, I read 41, bearing in mind I've read 108 books. I read 41 fantasy books this year. That makes up 34.5% of the genres that I read. And my most read book after that was 21 mystery books. And also romance at 19. Who would have thought? Who would have bloody thought? Moving on to format, so whether it was a novella, a short story, a manga, graphic novel, my most popular kind of format was, again, shock to no one, 70 novels. You can see I have a fun little pie chart here. Fun little pie chart, 70 novels. After that, the next best one was 21 manga volumes, which compared to last year, I read 52 manga volumes. So we really didn't read that much manga this year, which is something I do want to perfect in the new year. And 17 novellas. For source, so whether it was audiobook, physical, ebook, things like that, my most popular source was, again, shocker to no one, physical books. I read 86 physical books this year. That makes up 72.3% of what I read. And then after that, it was 23 ebooks. In regards to fiction, my fiction non-fiction ratio, I just want to remind you that one of my focuses for 2025 was to read at least 12 non-fiction books. I can confirm that I read 114 fiction books, making up 95.8% of what I read, and only 5 non-fiction books, making up 4.2%. So I did not do well on that. I don't know what it was. I started off the year so well, and then it just fell through the earth and into hell, and I never read any more non-fiction books. But in 2026, I've just finished. My first book of the year was a non-fiction book, so we're feeling good. In regards to the audience, the intended reader, whether that was YA, new adult, kids, adult, I can confirm that my most read age group was adult, with 85 books. That is not surprising in the slightest because I am an adult, so I'm not shocked. My biggest stat after that was I read 20 YA books, which, to be honest with you, that's more than I read last year of YA, I'm pretty sure. Those were some quickfire stats. Like I said, quick and easy. I'm not going to bore you with the minute details of my reading. That is for me alone because I'm a loser and I love statistics in an Excel spreadsheet. But the next thing we're going to do is jump into how I did on my challenges. I had 3 challenges that I set myself this year and then one kind of vague focus. To preface the year, I called 2025 the year of the slow 25, where I just wanted to slow down my reading. I will tag my original reading plan video. But I wanted to slow down my reading because I was getting a bit burnt out. I'm such an overachiever and very ambitious, and I love reading and I love challenging myself. But after many years of doing that, we just needed to take a break. And I think I did that incredibly well this year. It also allowed me to taking a break on certain elements of my reading style to try new things like YouTube. And I've went to Cheltenham this year and I've done loads of cool things and my TikTok has done well. So reading less has meant that I've been able to put my abilities and my creativity into different aspects. So yeah, I'm feeling very good about slow 2025, but the 3 challenges I had and my focus. So I had my reading challenge, which was to read 75 books. My sequel challenge, which was to read 1 book every month. That was part of an ongoing series. So that's 12 books. And my physical TBR challenge, which is basically where I just try to read the fucking God knows how many books I own in this house and read them. And that was 40 books. Then I had an overall focus, part of my slow 2025, which was to read books that would kind of slow my reading down. That was non-fiction, chunky kind of epic fantasies and murder mysteries, specifically classic murder mysteries. And we'll jump in and talk about those. So first up, for my reading challenge, we already know from the beginning of the video, my goal was 75 and I read 108. I'm very, 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 very happy with that. As I already said, last year I read 163, which I was nowhere near this year, but I went over my goal and I did what I set out to do, which was to slow down with my reading, and I achieved that and a little bit more, which is always nice. It's always nice to overachieve. God, what does that say about me? I don't know. For the sequels challenge, obviously the goal was 12. I can confirm that I read 17. In 2024, I read 20, so that's not that much difference considering the difference in what I read numbers-wise. To only have read 3 less than last year for my sequels feels very, very good. It means though I have a lot of sequels to potentially read in 2026. These kind of challenges are more just like a placeholder just to get me in the mindset of continuing series rather than being like, if you do not read that many goddamn sequels, you are a failure. I don't view it in that way, which I think is very helpful. For physical TBR, I also did really, really well. Obviously the goal was 40. That was 10 more than last in 2024. 2024, I set the goal out to read 30 and I read 66. So I amped it up to 40 this year and I can confirm that I read 51, which is really good and very good new to physical TBR ratio. Practically just under half of the books that I read this year were books I already owned, which I think is really good. In general, I did not buy that many books this year. I received some really lovely books from the publishers, but really my intake of books this year has been the lowest it's ever been, which is exactly what I wanted and something I want to continue going into 2026 is just reducing the amount of books I buy. I mean, I'm very lucky. I don't buy that many books because I receive some lovely ones from the publishers. But in general, just the consumption of what is entering the threshold of this house needs to slow down. In regards to my overall focus, classic mysteries, fantasy, and non-fiction, we kind of already know how this is gonna go. We already know. Non-fiction, I fucking failed that shit. 5 non-fiction. The crazy thing is I started off so strong. I did so well at the beginning of the year and then it all just fell off and I don't know what happened. 2026, the goal, I do in general want to read more non-fiction. There is no goal or no focus in 2026 to read more non-fiction, but I do have access to a lot more audiobooks this year, which I think is better for non-fiction. I just am not very good at maintaining reading non-fiction, but audiobooking non-fiction is a lot easier. I think the way I process the information is a lot better through audiobooks. So I've already read one audiobook, non-fiction book, which was Searching for Juliet by Sophie Duncan, which was really good, 4 stars. So yeah, but absolutely diabolically failed my 12 non-fiction books. For mystery, I read 21 mysteries, which is really, really good. My goal of reading classic murder mysteries, I didn't read that many. I think I read like 4 or 5. So from that vein, wasn't as successful, but I definitely did well reading mysteries in general, and I felt very good when I chose my top 5 murder mysteries of the year. Another video you should check out. I did feel like I was sifting through quite a lot of good books to choose my top 5 rather than the year before where it was like, this is all we're working with. This is what we've got, okay? This year was definitely a lot more like, oh my God, there's so many. What do I choose? And then in fantasy, we already know 51 fantasy or so read in 2024, 41 read in 2025. So even though obviously it's less fantasy, I read things like The Will of the Many. I read Assassin's Apprentice, which is another big fantasy one. I read The Tainted Cup, which is a very fun, exciting, big kind of world. Not epic fantasy in the way that we know it, but a very complicated, fun fantasy. So yeah, so I definitely think fantasy-wise, I definitely upped my game, and that's probably the only one that I was consistent with and that I focused on. I think going into 2026, I want to continue the non-fiction, the fantasy, and things like that. There you go. I wouldn't say it was the most successful focus I've ever had. There were little drips of success, but overall, I wouldn't say it was amazing. But in general, I think I had a very solid year. I was scrambling and really struggling to pick my top 10, so it ended up being a top 12. I enjoyed loads of the books that I read this year. I had a lot of amazing opportunities through books this year. Shout out to the New Adult Prize. Check out that playlist. That was an exciting moment. Probably my favorite moment of 2025 was attending Cheltenham Literary Festival with The Bookseller. Would not have written that, and I'm excited to see where 2026 goes. Again, I don't think I'll read as many books in 2026 because I'm trying to put a lot more effort into the quality of what I'm putting out social media and content creation wise, so we'll see. But in general, I think 2025 was a big shift for me. I think I started my YouTube channel. I've done amazing things through TikTok, but the way that I approach social media, like TikTok, like Instagram, there's a lot more focus, a lot more care, and a lot more consideration of quality in what I'm putting out there to a certain extent. Sometimes I'll post stupid stuff on TikTok and I'll go, that's not really the vibe I'm going for. But in general, 2025, I did think was a little bit of a shedding of the old ways and starting something new and exciting. I'm a quarter of the way through my life because I plan on seeing 100. So I think there's that element, you know? I think 2025 was really, really good, but I think it's put me in a very good, I needed that kind of slow re-cleanse of what reading means to me. So when we go into 2026, we're back on form and we're going bitches. There will be a reading plan for 2026 and reading goals for 2026, which I can't wait to show you. But yes, this was a really quick, fun, exciting little talk about how my 2025 went. So please like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. And thank you so much for watching.